Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike. May we continue with the conversations that are happening right here on this program. Now we address matters to do with the triple threat, that is GBV, that is pregnancies within adolescent age, and also matters to do with HIV. And, these are the things that hinder the well-being of women and young girls in continuing with their life normally. And joining me from Kisumu is Steve Oyugi, who is the Regional Offices Coordinator within Nyanza region of the National Systemic Disease Control Council. If you can hear me, Steve, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
Oh, all right. Let's get right into it. The triple threat, the HIV, the GBV, and adolescent pregnancies. Why are these cases considered prevalent, especially when it comes to areas like Kisumu and the Nyanza region?
Thank you. Basically, the triple threat is a triad of challenges, being new HIV infection, mistimed pregnancies, and sexual and gender-based violence among adolescents and young people in Kenya. Mm-hmm. It is a challenge to the level that is considered a menace as we speak, particularly for the Nyanza and Western region, where the prevalences have been recorded to be high. Now, it's very clear that Kenya is basically having a young population. If you look at our demographic pyramid, over 50% of our population is young, that is 24 years old and below. Ordinarily, it would be expected that this is the population that should be nurtured for the economy to benefit from. Again, we're all aware that Kenya is categorized as a middle-income country, and with that, it's expected to industrialize rapidly, thereby occasioning the need for labor, both skilled and unskilled. And therefore, the emphasis needs to be within this cohort.
Yes, indeed.
Unfortunately,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, continue.
Carry on. Yeah, unfortunately, the triple threat is really threatening to completely disorganize this cohort of population.
Yeah, and now, the triple threat, the GBV, the HIV, and these cases of adolescent pregnancies. What is the nexus between or amongst all this?
Thank you. Yeah, talk of the nexus, and the three threats are intervening in the sense that, look at pregnancies. In this case, it is a proxy indicator to HIV infection. The fact that there's a pregnancy is a clear indication that there was no prevention, and therefore the individual runs the risk of exposure to HIV infection. Sexual and gender-based violence is a contributing factor. A lot of, we would say that there are cases of mistimed pregnancies that are occasioned by violence, rape cases, molestation, amongst others. So the three threats intervene in a way.
In all this triple threat that we are talking about, women and young girls are more susceptible. But when you look at young girls, these are things that interfere with their lives very early. What makes them so susceptible to, especially when you look at adolescent pregnancies?
At the very least, I would describe the triple threat as very disruptive It is disruptive in the sense that the young girls, the girls and young women of this cohort are ordinarily supposed to be in school, but when the triple threat sets in, then there is a disruption in their education processes, and therefore there is a discontinuation that is expected until the young woman delivers. Now, the government has put in place mechanism for re-entry back to school for the girls who happen to be pregnant in the course of their education process. But again, the time lost can never be recouped. The cohorts that they were with will have been progressed. So we are talking of a year or so lost just like that. So this is very disruptive. Two, the triple threat in a sense interferes quite a lot with the transition. It is official government policy that we are looking forward to 100% transition in education. But unfortunately, because of the triple threat menace, there is a population that we cannot account for. There's a percentage of our young girls who drop off midstream and cannot progress with their education because of the triple threat.
Are there interventions to reach that population that you're talking about?
Great. A lot has been put in place. Programs and interventions specifically designed targeting this cohort of population, and specifically on HIV response, mistimed pregnancies, and sexual and gender-based violence. Now, these are youths, and they are youths whose interests are very dynamic. You design a program today, it will last about 12 months or so, then the dynamics will have changed completely. So then we put emphasis on strategic information to inform the design of interventions and programs targeting this particular cohort. Very vibrant programs are in place that are youth-friendly for that matter, so that we get their attention. Remember, this is a cohort that does not spend a lot of time doing something because of very dynamic interest. And therefore, we have to go by that. In essence, we created safe spaces for the youth so that they can openly express themselves and respond to the service provisions. Again, it's been a priority and deliberate that service delivery points are made accessible. Until now that we are talking of service integration, we had youth-friendly service centers, youth spaces where they could easily access the much-needed services. Otherwise, you would provide services, but the uptake would be very low because you are not speaking to their interests. You are not responding specifically to their needs.
Indeed. And how has, speaking of these youth spaces, with regard to what you are talking about, how would you say the response has been so far?
It's great. That's why we've made strides. The trajectory is positive, apart from specific indicators that we monitor, where we still have a lot to do, but the response is generally very positive. We've managed to reduce by a significant percentage the mistimed pregnancies from a high of 30% or so 10 years ago to where we are. When we go to the specific numbers, and this varies from one county to the other, we've managed to bring down the number of mistimed pregnancies by greater percentage, but a lot still needs to be done.
Indeed. Now, Looking on matters to do with the gender-based violence, and looking at Nyanza region, how would you say, how widespread is GBV within areas like Kisumu?
Sexual and gender-based violence remains a problem, a challenge for that matter, in the response to the HIV and even mistimed pregnancy, because it is a cause. Recently, our country has been going through cases, and this continues, of femicide. This is very unfortunate and is something that must be addressed. The positive thing is that there is a goodwill that this must be addressed. Now, talk of Nyanza region, Nyanza and Western, we have cases of sexual and gender-based violence promoted mainly by drugs and substance abuse. And the unfortunate bit is that some of these cases never see the light of the day when it comes to prosecution and dispensing, getting justice for the survivors of these cases. Now, we still have cases of kangaroo courts where cases of sexual abuse, sexual molestation are still being handled at family levels and even at the community levels. This, in a way, promotes the vice, because the sentences that such kangaroo courts would be handing down would not be proportionate to the degree of the offense that's committed. That's why it's very critical and important that these cases are reported and legal processes take place as is required.
What do you think are the barriers that hinder victims of sexual and GBV cases to report these incidences?
Yeah, a lot of cases go unreported, and this is very unfortunate. One, it's due to lack of information. What those who've been subjected to this unfortunate occurrence need to do. So this gap still exists, although it's being actively addressed, but there's still a lot to be done to make sure that everybody is made aware of what they need to do. One, to safeguard themselves against sexual and gender-based violence. Two, on what to do in the event that they fall to such unfortunate incidences. Two, serious documentation and follow-up needs to occur. Every police station today has got a gender-based gender desk that specifically deals with such cases. But then there is the problem of shame. More often than not, you'll find that people who have been subjected to this, the survivors, feel ashamed. They do not want to, present themselves to this dedicated point so that they report these cases. And therefore, the cases go unrecorded and attended to, which is very unfortunate. Two, as I have mentioned, a good number of at the family level, a good number of cases, the family members would prefer that they are sorted out at that level because they feel, you'll realize that those who commit these offenses are people who are familiar to their subjects. More often than not, they are close relatives or even family members. So when such occur, the family members retreat and attempt to sort out the cases at the family level. And this is very unfortunate and denies those who are subjected to such phenomenon the much-needed justice.
Indeed, we are talking about the triple threat that is GBV, HIV, and cases of adolescent pregnancies right here on Good Morning Kenya. We take a short break. We'll be right back to continue this conversation. All right, welcome back. We're talking about the interventions to address cases of HIV, GBV, and pregnancy, adolescent pregnancies. And looking at matters to do with HIV, are there ways through which the youth are accessing HIV prevention services, Mr. Steve?
Because if you look at the data of 2023, this cohort contributed to about 22% of the adult new HIV infections during the period under review. And so we have been very deliberate in ensuring that this cohort is tapped into our interventions. We have initiated youth-friendly services that are specifically targeting these young people. I mentioned the cases of safe spaces where they can access the services that they require, particularly prevention services. And so the uptake is good. The uptake is very good. The bottom line is that every young person, every adolescent and young person need to know their HIV status because it begins from there. Those who are HIV positive would therefore be initiated into treatment straight away. Remember, these services are provided by the government free of charge. But where there are cases of poor service uptake, then we look into the reasons as to why. Is it a case of accessibility? Is it the nature of the services? Because youths would prefer to talk to their fellow youths. It becomes a challenge if the service provider exhibits an age gap. Therefore, this would keep them away. So deliberate efforts have been made to make sure that this component is met absolutely.
And are there...
again, when...
Okay, I wanted to know if there are gaps that you think exist when it comes to what you would call youth-friendly healthcare.
Right. It's resource intensive to create and maintain these service points, and therefore there is need for bridging the resource gaps that currently exist in order for the service delivery component to be fully realized as intended. Mm-hmm. And so we are talking of human resources that would enable the service delivery to be optimized. We are also talking of, commodity. With the availability of commodity and uptake is enhanced, we are sure to prevent new HIV infection among adolescents and young people. We need also to, again, up our game when it comes to adherence to treatment for those who've been initiated into care and treatment. Why is it that we still lose some of them to tracing? Why is it that we still don't have optimized compliance, treatment adherence by adolescent and young people? For instance, we've had feedback that the pill burden is keeping the adolescents and young people away from treatment. The pill burden, remember, this is a daily medication that those who are living with the virus have to take. So the pill burden is also making a good number of them to just drop off the treatment. So the challenges still exist, but the good thing is that they are being actively addressed.
Indeed. Let's look at solutions and responses. And at the county level, what are there interventions that are in place to try and tackle the triple threat?
True, sure, Mike. As I mentioned earlier on, some of the risk factors include, though not limited to, poverty. We are also having early sexual debut. The last survey indicated that up to 28% in certain counties within this region had their first sexual contact before the age 15. Again, we are talking of transactional sex. That is a risk factor among this cohort. You remember, sex for gifts. These are vulnerable people. The girls are very young. But because of poverty levels, you might find that a girl is offered a gift in exchange for sex. And you may find that the gift is nothing beyond sanitary pads. And this is very unfortunate. Talk of the poverty index, the national poverty index is about 30%. But then in this region, you talk of 60% in Busia and a low of about 33 in Kisumu. So this is exponential and therefore remains a risk factor. But all in all these factors are actively being addressed. The government has put in place initiatives targeting young people, the youth funds and the likes, that would enable them to establish ventures to, be independent by starting businesses, amongst others. Again, research has shown that when kids are kept in school, then we have delayed sexual debut, their first sexual contact. And therefore, retaining the girls, particularly in school, would safeguard them from the risk of the triple threat. And in this sense, there are a number of bursaries that the government has put in place that are accessible at the county level in different offices, so that the children are kept in school. Despite their family background, their economic status, they are kept in school. Again, research has shown that the lesser the education level, the more vulnerable the girls particularly become when it comes to mistimed pregnancies. The higher the education levels, the delayed first incident of pregnancies. So all in all, there are active interventions that are directly speaking to the risk factors that have been identified, so that we deal comprehensively with the triple threat menace.
Now, in under 1 minute, Mr. Steve, how can communities and young people be part of the solutions to tackle the triple threat?
Thank you, Mike. You will remember currently the End the Triple Threat campaign is at its peak. Actually, this is a flagship program for us. And the emphasis here, or the main principle, is a one government approach, one community approach in dealing with the triple threat. It took the intervention of the entire government ministries, departments, and agencies to make commitments, deliberate commitments to deal with the triple threat. This also ensures accountability at our levels. And so one of the strategies of achieving this is basically mobilizing the community, offering public education and sensitization, so that we realize that this is a problem and we can't continue with the status quo. Again, we have to account for each and every child in the community. So this brings together the GAUs, the general population, the community gatekeepers, teachers, parents, the youths themselves, so that we pull together and become accountable on matters triple threat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steve Oyugi, for joining us on Good Morning Kenya and talking about the interventions to address HIV, gender-based violence, and adolescent pregnancy right here in Good Morning Kenya. This is where I end this conversation. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya.